This is the only picture I have of my brother before he ran out in the road and badly scarred his face.
This photo was taken between the two world wars of my mum and dad. What I like about it is the look of love from my mum to my dad. They looked so comfortable together. Dad died when I was 4 years old, so I didn't know him. My older brothers and sisters tell me that he was a great dad, never failing to tell us all the bedtime stories, and with very little income, always putting us kids first. Mum and Dad's favourite enjoyment was to go to symphony concerts. What? EastEnders liking classical music? Impossible, but true. When Dad died of pneumonia in 1940, my mum was devastated, but she picked up the reins and looked after my 6 brothers and sisters well. She was a great mum, and my dad was a great dad. How lucky I was.
Was a happy Christmas day. It did not last.
This is my wife, aged about 10, dressed up as little Bo Peep at the Dr. Barnardo's home where she spent most of her first 13 years. Very institutionalised and lacking in home comforts. Are there no prisons? And the union workhouses, are they still in operation? And the treadmill and the poor law, are they in full vigour then? If they would rather die, they had better do it and decrease the surplus population. The words of Charles Dickens 100 years before, but still alive and kicking in the 1950s, and are the feelings of some people even now. The real tragedy of the children in the home is the lack of love from mum and dad. I know this is what the children yearn for.
First family trip on a ship abroad. My daughters, on the eldest wedding day, they have shared their deepest secrets, happiest moments, ups and downs. The bond they shared on that day is as strong as ever.
VE Day 1945, at last the war is over and the good times are here. But they weren't. I was 10 at the time, and the austerity years lasted another 10 years, all through my teenage years. Fun was in short supply, but at least no one wanted to kill me. Yes, that's me, with the silly hat. Wow. Cakes and jellies and blancmange and lemonade and happy smiling faces. I'm sitting next to the girl next door. She must have been 3 or 4 years older than me, but she's the first girl I ever kissed. Days of innocence.
The days when I could still run about and wear skimpy clothing, nowadays getting out of bed is a problem.
We drove down to Cornwall in our Triumph TR3, top down and wind in our hair. Halfway there a Mini Cooper had the cheek to overtake us. For 30 miles we swapped the lead. No speed limits then. He took me on the bends, I took him on the straight. He won, turning off just before me, but it was good fun, with a cheery wave of the hands as we parted. Problems. My lovely wife of just 1 year is having fits, where she goes vacant. No recognition, no emotion, no feeling, nothing. Doc says fits will disappear when we start a family, and he was right. This was a wonderful holiday where we started the healing process. Someone said my wife looks French. Well, French is the language of love. I can still see the black leatherette dress and bright yellow top. Wow, how sexy.
There were lots of people watching the display of birds of prey. No one else would volunteer to hold the chicken leg for the eagle, not even the great big men. I soon found out why an eagle is in full flight towards you. It's very scary. I just shut my eyes and hope for the best.
This is me receiving a 10-pin bowling trophy and a kiss from Barbara Windsor. My brother and I were the doubles champions at our local bowling alley. I once scored 7 strikes in a row during a match. The whole of the centre stopped to watch me after the 4 in a row. No pressure then. At the time, Barbara Windsor was associated with a well-known member of the underworld. I think he was in the Cray gang. As I kissed Barbara, I looked over her shoulder and saw these cold, piercing eyes of her boyfriend staring at me. I don't think concrete boots would suit me.
These boys are my 2 brothers. The one standing on the step is Jerry, the other is John. Can you imagine boys dressing like that now? They would probably murder their parents or run away.
VJ Day, victory in Japan. The Yanks have dropped something called an atom bomb on the Japs, and they have surrendered. Serve them right, they started it. But who actually won? We have the same deprivations as Germany and Japan. We don't have a foreign power telling us what to do, but we do. The USA is dictating to us, demanding we give up our empire, soaking us for every penny they can get. We are bankrupt, but the USA is 4 times richer than at the beginning of the war. They took all of our overseas assets. So much for the special relationship. More cakes and jellies. At this rate I'll get fat. My favourite was blancmange. Don't see much of that anymore. And chasing girls. Blimey, they can't half run fast. Perhaps they wanted to be caught by the big bad boys.
My daughter, aged 2, obviously terrified of being forced by her idiotic mother to sit on a stranger's knee, dressed in weird clothes with peculiar white growth all over his face, and the sad mother tried to enforce the rule, never talk to strangers. Wedding, 1954. Worst day of my life. Married 38.5 years.
Nuns. Religion. I owe my warped character to 5 years in a Jesuit public school as a token scholarship boy. Sheer purgatory. Alfred Hitchcock attributed the macabre content of his films to his time at my school. He was our most famous old boy. Bananas. The end of the Second World War, and the first time I can ever remember eating bananas. My aunt, second from the left, managed the kitchen in a girls' school. On my rare visit, she let me eat what I wanted in the pantry. Heaven. She eventually went on a mission to Hiroshima, first atom bomb, where she died 15 years later, having achieved her lifelong ambition. Playing netball with a dozen girls who hadn't gone home for the holidays. It took a week for the bruises to heal. I'm sitting quietly eating in the kitchen. 2 scullery maids are washing up next door. First maid. That Stephen's won a scholarship to St. Ignatius College. Second maid. He doesn't look that clever.
First school photograph at Benji's Hertfordshire. Damage caused by a pole through a car screen. If I had not tried to move out of the way, it would have hit me on the face, and I would probably not have survived. It taught me to live life to the fullest. Who knows when it will end?
My lovely wife Daphne, aged about 12. She looked so happy, but she wasn't. Born in 1943, her mother gave her away at birth. Her mother had been playing away. Daphne spent most of her youth in a Dr. Bernardo's home, with 2 brief stints in foster homes. The first one ill-treated her, and the second sent her back when the woman became pregnant. She was the wife of a vicar, so much for Christian charity. Eventually, Daphne was adopted by an elderly couple who, every week, without fail, told her they only adopted her to look after them when they were old. The old man used to wander into Daphne's bedroom at night, and the old woman must have known. 2 more candidates for hell. Daphne says she only started living the day she met me. I've only ever been to 1 ballet, and that was by accident. On holiday in the south coast, I decided to go to the theatre. The Fairy Queen by the Welsh Ballet Company was on. They were due to perform elsewhere, but the other theatre burnt down, and they moved to my theatre. Serendipity?
My grandfather's brother and wife on a visit from Canada for Christmas, 1937. The only thing I remember was the 10 shillings they gave me for a present. I was rich.
Me and my mate. One year we went on holiday to North Wales, staying at bed and breakfasts. One evening we couldn't find a B&B and eventually saw a little sign pointing up a dirt track. There was an isolated bungalow, all in darkness. Repeated knocking brought a glimmer of light. An elderly lady reluctantly let us in. No evening meal available, so straight to bed. Our room was at the far end of a very, very long corridor. As we got ready for bed, we heard the lady walking down the corridor, locking all the other bedroom doors. I don't blame her. We might have ravished her. My second car, how shiny and polished it looks. My first was an old banger used by the army in the desert and still sand covered, but it was all mine. I could fold the windscreen down in hot weather. Fantastic. Air conditioning. This one is a Morris Oxford, but I really wanted an ex-police car. But my mate, who had a Morris Minor, persuaded me to buy this. Big mistake. That's why I'm running him over.
On holiday, Seacroft, Norfolk. Taylor, Greece on a boat. Went to island of Pilat, where his brother lived.
I've actually visited the Wild West in the USA, but this photo was taken in Spain after guzzling vast quantities of cheap Spanish plonk. I'm ashamed I allowed my teenage sons to partake liberally. We were on holiday. My youngest was violently sick, a salutary lesson in excessive drinking. That sobered me up. We had to smuggle him onto the coach back to our hotel. If the driver had seen how bad my son was, he wouldn't have let him on the coach in case he was sick. He didn't want his coach messed up, and I don't blame him. It was a good holiday apart from the overnight coach trip to get to Spain and back. Sheer purgatory. Never again. Don't do it, especially if, like us, the toilet on the coach is blocked and the stench is nauseating.
1990, friends and family, happy memories, life's rich tapestry. Son's quote. All added to life's joys and achievements, a celebration of what had been. 2012, new beginnings touched with sadness will retain the happy memories and move on concentrating on the good things in life. I was on holiday with my friends in Edinburgh. It was the first time I'd been away from home without my parents. I will never forget the fun we had, and my friends, I don't know where they are now. This is the photo of my aunt wearing a dress made by her sister. I think it's stunning. She should have been a really rich woman, but she wasn't, the dressmaker. My one and only baby photo. It's hard for me to imagine I was ever like this. I look frightened, but I had no memory of this as I was too young. My eldest daughter looked like me when she was a baby.
End of year one in the school from hell. My God, what else have I let myself in for? Some religious maniacs beat themselves with whips or stones. Some Catholic fanatics wear a very tight, wide belt under their clothes called a cilice, giving them constant pain so they can atone for the sins of man. The more extreme become Jesuit priests and inflict pain on others. My school was a Jesuit school and I was one of their victims. I'm one of the many in the photo not smiling. Paradoxically, the teacher in the photo was strict, but one of the few nice teachers there.
A proud man who never talked about his family. My dad, a conductor, having a ciggy break before taking the bus out. I remember all the free rides I had.
Wharton on the Naze and my dad before I was born. Life in the old dog. My first view of the open sea was age 11 at Wharton. All my previous holidays had been on Canby Island, looking across the Thames mud flats. I was amazed. Big waves, clean sea, the horizon leading to wondrous adventures. I never met my dad, which is ridiculous. He died when I was 4 in 1940, just as the war was starting. How dreadful for my mother. She had a husband and 7 children. Within 1 year, bombs began to fall. Her husband died. 4 children taken away from her, evacuation. one son, a pilot.